To do: recording 13 songs, producing 13 songs, mixing 13 songs, releasing 13 songs, learn how to record, produce, mix and release, posting on social media, making YouTube videos, album and single covers, music videos, job, life. This is quite an overwhelming to-do list. The only way I could get anything done is by getting organized. Hi, I'm CARO J and I'm a singer-songwriter in producing, and I'm sharing my journey of trying to DIY myself an album. Today I will get into the project management side, what I did to not get overwhelmed and actually get things done. It helps that I really like to make lists and plannings and color coding and all that jazz, not in an aesthetic way but in an effective way. Goals. Before starting any project, you need to be sure about what the goal is. In this case, the goal, not just of the album, but of my musical journey in general, consists of 3 parts. The first was getting my music out there. So sharing the songs that I like and building a discography. The second was learning skills that I will benefit from forever. Learning the skills I need to be able to produce and releasing my music on my own terms, whenever I want it, how I want it, exactly the way I want it. I have this image in my head of being 40 years old and suddenly having inspiration for a song and then having the abilities to just sit down behind my laptop and record and produce it and make it the way I want it, get it out of my head straight away into a waveform. And the third goal, and the most difficult one, is finding a community of people that like my music. And it is the most difficult one because, well, music promotion and marketing is a whole beast in and of itself. Often a lot of money involved, but also some luck involved. There's just so much music in the world. But yeah, besides it being the most difficult and maybe even unrealistic one, it's also an amazing one to be able to connect to people through music. I know how much some songs have meant to me, and it would just be the best to be able to do that for others. I needed to remind myself of these 3 goals constantly, because it was very tempting to get stuck and worried and spend too much time and energy on the third one. Most people are talking about that, how to make it in the music industry, while actually the first 2 ones had a higher priority. Without skills, I could not build a discography, and without a discography, people cannot discover it at all. So, a schedule. My plan was originally to release the album in July 2022. Obviously, that didn't happen. I postponed it to February then. It was quite random. I think February is quite soon because it is almost February. So maybe March or April, I'm not sure. If you are watching from the future, you know exactly when I released it. But well, plans are meant to change is what my mother taught me. I used a schedule like an overview of what I wanted to do each month to reach the goal of the album. And at first I was working on 13 songs in parallel, but later I decided to release some songs as singles first. Some guy on the internet told me very passionately that that was a good idea. And that was quite a difficult decision because I had that idea of the full album in my head, and I was also afraid that if people didn't like the first single, they wouldn't care to listen to the rest of the songs, even though they might like those. Because I tend to make quite diverse songs and even in different genres. But I'm still very glad that I did it this way because it allowed me to practice with releasing and with social media and to make it feel a little more manageable, that I could just tick off some songs that were ready along the way. But the schedule was changing constantly because, to be honest, I had no idea what I got myself into when I started with this project. I had no idea what I didn't know. I had to learn what I needed to learn. And that way it is very difficult to have an idea of how much time something will take. And some songs I started over, like a few months later. I just opened a new file and completely restarted because I was learning so much along the way. I was still very much in a steep part of a learning curve. So yeah, the schedule was constantly changing. I think for next musical projects, it will get easier and easier to have kind of an estimation about how much time something will take. Progress tracking. In a table like this, I track the progress of each song. So they all started from dark red and then they went to green. I found this visual very motivating and it gave a nice overview of where I was in the project. However, progress in a creative process is not linear. So for example, the song Banana Milkshake, when it was almost green, I decided I was not happy with it and started all over again from red. And the vocals for My City, My Home, that changed from yellow to red and back again, I think 4 times. But this format allowed me to do that, and at all times I had some grasp of how far I was in the project. I had a folder for the album and then subfolders for each songs, and within each subfolders I had a producing file, a vocal recording file and a mixing file, and then of course WAV files of different versions of the songs so that I could listen to them on the train and give myself feedback. While I was working on this, I was also sometimes working already on the next album, because that also consists of songs that I already wrote, and sometimes I got excited about them and wanted to get ideas out of my head. But I really tried to not work on it too much before finishing this album, because I didn't want to fall into the trap of working on too many things at the same time and then never finishing anything. So I tracked my progress constantly. I had my files organized. I had a schedule of when to get what done. So now the only thing left to do was actually getting it done. But I think that I might have been trying to get a little too organized, because I needed to learn so much. I didn't know my ideal workflow yet. It was very hard to make estimations, as I said before. I didn't even really have a workflow to begin with. So it was a constant balance between staying organized and staying on track, but also being flexible for the learning process and the creative process. If you enjoyed this video, please consider to subscribe and follow along with my journey as I try to DIY my debut album. Leave a pineapple in the comments and see you in the next episode. Now I will get back to the rest of my to-do list.